What do you think about what Tommy is showing when he's going in the streets, having 100,000 people showing up? A lot of people in London finally are coming out saying the Overton window of immigration, not even people in London, the story came out last week, they're even more aggressively anti-immigration than America. They're like, we don't want any more of this. For you, somebody who is from there, what have you noticed the changes in London since Muslims started entering decades ago?
Well, I think it's the problem has been massively exaggerated. However, there is a rising problem. That's how I would categorize it myself. Tommy Robinson resonates with people because of two things, I think. One, he was absolutely right about the grooming gang scandal in the north of England. It was a horrendous scandal involving almost exclusively British Pakistani men abusing young white English girls. That was the scandal, and it was going on for years. It was horrific. These girls were being appallingly abused by a particular section of the community. But nobody dared say what that community was because they were trapped in woke ideology that you can't name a criminal if it doesn't suit the woke agenda. And so Tommy Robinson was one of those people that early on began calling this out, and he was right to do so, and he deserves credit for doing it. Mainstream media weren't completely oblivious. One guy on the Times actually exposed it originally and kept banging that drum. But many people in the establishment in the UK conspired to cover it up. They didn't want this. They thought it would be too much of a powder keg to say what actually happened, which is this was British Pakistani men abusing white English girls. That was it. And they should have been clear with what was going on. So Tommy Robinson deserves credit for that.
Piers is an interesting character. He says that the immigration and Islamic extremism problem is exaggerated, but then goes on to describe the most horrifying state of affairs in his country. The entire political and media apparatus covered up and shielded Pakistani grape gangs who were specifically graping and abusing white British children. And Piers says this problem is exaggerated? I don't think that word means what he thinks it does. And if this wasn't enough, have a look at what he says next.
2 years ago, we had a net migration in the UK of legal migration of nearly 1 million people. Now, to put it in context, we only have just under 70 million people in the UK. You bring in 1 million people a year legally and add them to the already creaking infrastructure. You know, we have our much vaunted national health system, the NHS, was designed in the 50s for a population of 50 million. We now have a population of nearly 70 million. So the strain on all of our infrastructure, all our public services, has been getting worse and worse and worse in direct correlation to the size of our population. And that is what's been fueling a lot of the anger. A lot of people, add the pandemic, add the cost of living crisis, so add years of really tough times for a lot of people, particularly working class people in Britain. And they see a lot of people coming in either illegally or with the blessing of the state, with many dependents. And they see with the illegal migrants coming over on the southern border, they get put in 3-4-star hotels. They get treated way better than the way that many people are living their lives who are in the country illegally already. And it causes a lot of resentment. Then you add inevitably, when you get these kind of numbers coming in, that you're going to get migrants committing crimes. And when they do, this becomes a hugely inflammatory thing. So again, on that aspect of it all, Robinson is correct.
Exactly. So he admits that the British welfare system can't handle 1 million more people every single year. And illegal immigrants are getting free stay in 4-star hotels paid for by British taxpayers who live in far worse accommodation themselves. But still calls the problem exaggerated? That's completely insane. And this isn't even the entire extent of the problems. Have a look at what he says next.
So if you look at this number, this is estimated Muslim population in UK by percentage from 83 till today. I'm sure you've seen this. 500,000 in 83, 1%. And then it cracked 1 million in 97, 14 years later, and then 2 million, and then 4 million, and then 4.5, some say 5 million today, 6-7% of the population. Do you think this growth, the way it's going right now, getting to 10, 20, 30%, do you think it is a good idea to keep allowing people to come in, to combine the Islam way of thinking, what their ideas are, and coexist with the Western ideology?
Well, I think there are issues which are serious to be considered. For example, it's been reported there are as many as potentially 85 unofficial Sharia courts in the UK now, which are not operating under UK law. They're operating in their own law for their own communities. That clearly is not a good thing in a country like the UK.
Right. They also have Sharia courts. So it's possible that a Pakistani can grape a child and then go to a Sharia court and be set free if it's not a crime under Islam. Of course, this doesn't happen, and I assume that the Sharia courts are only for domestic or civil cases, but it's only a matter of time before this does become a reality. And that's besides the fact that there shouldn't even be a Sharia court to begin with. Why is there a parallel system of law granted to a certain group within a country? Can every other group get their own laws in Britain if they don't want to follow British law? Now, to his credit, Piers says that this is a growing problem, but I think he's still too nonchalant about it. This is an emergency that Britain needs to deal with immediately. Anyway, that's it for this video. Consider subscribing to catch the next one.